Everybody wanna be in entertainment till it's time to get down to the business. Yeah, Glitz and Ghetto, Glitz and Ghetto, yeah, Glitz and Ghetto, it's Glitz and Ghetto, Glitz and Ghetto, it's Glitz and Ghetto. The glitz and glamour is a setup, cause behind the scenes it really is ghetto, yeah.
What's up, ghetto babies? It's your girl Naderah, and welcome to another episode of the Glitz and Ghetteaux podcast, where we know the entertainment industry looks glitz and glam to the people on the outside, but behind the scenes, it's truly glitz and ghetto. Either way, what's up, y'all? So glad that you guys decided to tune into the next or the newest episode of the Glitz and Ghetteaux podcast, as this is something that I'm really, really passionate about. And the purpose of this podcast is to really educate the individuals who aspire to be a part of the entertainment industry and aspire to work either in front of the camera or behind the scenes of the entertainment industry, and just to educate you about how important it is to take care of yourself, to educate yourself, to uplift yourself as you pursue this career, whether you are a director, a producer, a writer, a singer, an actress, a dancer, a hairstylist, wardrobe stylist, costume designer, you name it, the list goes on. And I think today's episode is going to be really, really important, especially to many people, because it's near and dear to me, and I think that it is a subject matter that many of us don't really talk about inside of the entertainment industry. I think that a lot of us believe that once you become successful as an entertainer and you are living out your dreams, that everything is just always going to be peachy keen and you're always going to feel great about it, and you're going to wake up every morning and you're going to feel like, oh, the best day ever. And unfortunately, that is not the truth. I know social media will lead us to believe that all of our favorite celebrities are just living their very best lives at all times of the day and every single hour. But the truth of the matter is that I've worked with a lot of different artists, and a lot of them have their own doubts. A lot of them have their own insecurities, and they are human just like everyone else. And we all struggle with our self-worth and our value. And so today's episode is going to dig a little bit deeper, and I'm going to talk about my own personal journey and just about some different experiences that I've had working with other people, and just different examples of how self-worth has impacted individuals in their career, mine as well, and just giving you some solutions as to how you can overcome these things and overcome imposter syndrome as you continue to pursue your creative endeavors as an entertainer, whether it be in front of the camera or behind the scenes. So I'm not going to lie, this morning I woke up and I did not feel like my best self. And I feel like it's a little bit selfish of me to get on here and talk to you guys as if like, oh, everything is just wonderful and amazing at all times. I woke up this morning and I was struggling with my self-worth, and even though I'm on tour right now with the first national tour of the Mrs. Doubtfire musical, it is a Broadway Tony Award winning show. I'm a swing on this show, and many of you might be asking, well, what is a swing? Well, in entertainment industry, you probably have heard the phrase, the show must go on. Well, I'm the person that helps the show continue to go on. So whether a person is injured, sick, or on vacation, I know 6 different roles inside of the show, so that if any one of those people in those 6 roles who are permanently on stage get sick, hurt, injured, or go on vacation, I'm getting called in. I've had many opportunities where I've been swung on in the middle of the show. I got told an hour before the show, 30 minutes before the show, in the middle of the show, days before the show, to know that like, hey, you're going on in a specific track. And I've even had rehearsals where I had to be 2 and 3 people at a time. Now, this job is something that's very difficult, and it's something that I told myself that I didn't know if I could do it, but I also told myself that if this opportunity ever presented itself to me, that I would do it. The problem that I'm having with this particular role is that while I get to watch my friends who are extremely talented individuals, who are equally as successful and just amazing individuals overall, I get to watch them go on stage every single day. The problem is that I feel like I'm a little kid stuck inside the classroom watching all of my friends have a good time on the playground. And for the last 2 weeks since we've been back on tour, I have been sitting backstage. I performed once, which was wonderful and an amazing experience and very invigorating. Most of the days I sit backstage and I'm just, hopeful to have an opportunity to perform, but I also know that if I do perform, that means that someone is either out of the show for vacation, they're injured, or they're sick. And I personally don't want my friends to be injured or sick. I know we've seen movies that happen on television where like, oh, people are putting glass and rocks inside of other people's shoes so that they can take on their role. But I have no desire to hurt anyone, and I truly believe that these people are my friends, and I want them to be successful, and I want them to win. However, it does put me in a position to where sometimes I question my talent. Like, am I in this position because I'm not good enough? Do they not believe that I have the ability to really take on these roles and be successful? And then I have to remind myself that, like, no, you're here because not only can you do one role, but you can do six. You can do six. You can do them all proficiently at the drop of a dime in a matter of time. And so this morning, even though I woke up and I felt down and I felt less than, and that imposter syndrome came in, like, do I even deserve to be here? I had a therapy session, and I truly advise all entertainers to have some form of therapy or have a quality control group of people that they trust, that they can talk to about these moments in time where they do fall down and out about themselves or they're doubting their abilities. I have someone that I can go to that helps me with tools and practices to remember that, like, you're here because you deserve to be here, because you belong to be here. And so today's episode is really just going to talk about some of the things that we can do as entertainers and entertainment professionals to keep ourselves energized, and so that we can continue to win inside of this industry, because self-doubt will come into play. You will have imposter syndrome sometimes, but I believe that it is an attack of the enemy, and it's there to discourage you, and you have to stand strong on who you are as an artist and the abilities that God has given you and has blessed you with, because you would not be here pursuing this thing if you did not deserve it, if you were not worthy of it. And God would have not given you that passion and that desire inside of your heart without giving you the tools to actually go after it and succeed. I've seen so many people give up on their dreams because the self-doubt just sets in and it takes over them and their mindset, and they never go after the things that they truly deserve. I grew up in Miami, Florida, and there was a dancer that I grew up with, and she was just amazing. Like, you could tell that she came out of the womb dancing. Like, she danced like water. And unfortunately, I saw the demise of this woman's abilities because she just really didn't have that belief inside of herself. I auditioned for a job with this woman once, and I just saw the defeat in her face before the audition even started. And I'm like, yo, you got this. You have been that girl. Everybody has looked up to you, no matter what schools they went to growing up. And I told you guys about who I am and how I trained coming up as a dancer. I went to some really prestigious schools, and this dancer in particular was the it girl of all the schools, of all the conservatories, and she could do every style of dance. However, she didn't have that confidence in herself. Her self-worth was down. She, didn't think that she belonged inside of those rooms. And unfortunately, when you walk into a room as an entertainer that way, people can feel that energy. So what are some of the things that I recommend for us to do as entertainers is to have a routine that we can center ourselves each and every morning. Now, since I've been on tour, I'm not going to lie, it's been a little bit difficult for me to maintain this routine. However, it is something that I live by, that I preach by, that I make as regular as I possibly can when I'm not in the midst of rehearsals and things like that, and a really different schedule. But I still make time for these things because it is important for my mental health and my well-being. And I'm very aware, even as I talk to you guys right now, that part of this identity crisis that I'm having is that I have not been in practice like I need to be, because I've been in rehearsal and at shows at night, and I haven't been putting this into practice. So one of the biggest things that I do is a morning routine. I wake up and I pray. I connect with my source of power. Now, I'm not here to tell you who your source of power should be. This is not a religious podcast. However, I am a Christian, and I'm a believer in Christ. And so I pray to Jesus Christ, and that is where I get my source of power from. And I connect with God, and I pray in Jesus' name every single day. And I thank God for the ability to live out my dreams, for allowing me to go after this passion, and for him guiding me along the way, because trust me, so many obstacles have come against me on this journey, and it hasn't been easy. And I know that without God in my life, without Jesus there to guide me, I would not be who I am. So I thank God for that every single day. I thank God when I'm driving. I thank God when I'm getting ready to go to sleep. I thank God when I'm on my way to the theater. I thank God in the midst of my performances. I thank God before the show starts. I thank God after the show. I thank God before auditions. I do these things on a consistent basis because I know that without having a source of power to where I get my strength from, I'm nothing. And I can quickly lose my identity and who I am and my own self-worth if I don't connect to that power source. Your phone, if it doesn't connect to power to get that recharge that it needs, it's gonna die. My laptop, all these devices that I'm using to bring this podcast to you, if it doesn't connect to a power source, it dies. The same is true for you as a human being and as an artist. You have to connect to your powerful source so that you can be re-energized. You got to get in your word. You know, you have to meditate on that word, which is another thing that I make a regular practice. It's something that I don't do every single day, but it's something that I do consistently enough as a practice so that I can, when I speak to God in prayer, God can talk back to me through meditation. This is something that helps me when I'm at auditions. I take on a certain posture. This is a 10-minute meditation, 5-minute meditation that I do just to center myself so that I'm aware of who I am. I'm centering myself inside of my body and centering myself inside of who this character is and the role that I'm going for. And I have seen so much success with this. Even if I don't get the job, I know that I make strong impressions. I will say this as a caveat. I have gone into auditions that I've prayed and meditated before, centered myself, and that day I did not get the job. I didn't get the job that day. However, down the line, I never auditioned for these jobs ever again, but I got a direct booking for the BET Awards with Meg Thee Stallion because of that posture that I took on. So there is a lot of power in praying and meditating and putting yourself in a posture to go on and to win these things. And it's bigger than just the job. It's about you as a human being. I also work out. I keep my body active and agile because I know that if my body is not in the prime time working condition, I'm not going to win in what I'm trying to do. I'm just not. Like as a professional dancer, as a singer, as an actor, you gotta have that stamina and that endurance to make it through a 3-hour show, to make it through an 8 to 12-hour rehearsal. You have to do these things, and when you don't have the ability to do that, I've seen people get fired from jobs because they just didn't have the stamina and the endurance to fulfill it. These things are strenuous on our bodies, so prayer, meditating, and working out is something that I put consistently in my routine so that when it's time for me to show up to this job, I am centered. And I will also say, for those of you who have followed me on my Instagram page, I do my morning run afterthoughts because I go for these jogs and I have these like moments of clarity. And I share them with my audiences with my morning run afterthought. But this is all a part of my routine. This is how I'm able to show up as the best version of myself and to be able to really value myself and show up as my most powerful self and knowing who I am and not allowing imposter syndrome or doubt to take over because I know where my power comes from. My power talks back to me. I am centered within myself, and my body is physically and mentally prepared for the opportunities that I'm going after, whether it be acting, dancing, singing, professionally, personally, whatever the case might be. Also, I would say that having a journal is something that I subscribe to because I can always go back to think about or to read about the things that I've gone through and the things that I've overcome and to see how far I've gone on my journey. So whenever I have that doubt, like I had this morning, I could read my journal and say, you know what, I prayed for moments like this. I remember when I auditioned for this really amazing musical, and I'm not going to name it right now because I do hope that it comes to fruition for me another time as a lead character inside of the show. But I remember I auditioned for this show, and they offered me the role as a swing on that show. And I didn't know what a swing was, so I reached out to some of my friends who were professional entertainers inside of the theatrical and live theater realm. And they were on Broadway with the same show. And I said, hey, I got off the position of the swing. I told them I needed a moment to think about it, but I wanted to get your insight as to, do you think that it will be something good for me to take on? And so my friends started explaining to me, well, being a swing is hard. You got to learn all these roles. It's really difficult. You just never know what role you're going to go in for. And I had never done anything like that. So I got scared and I denied the job. Like, why would I do that? And I don't think my friends had ill intention, but they should have also told me that most people who make it on Broadway, they make it because they start out as a swing. That's neither here nor there. We were all young. We were all making decisions based on our best knowledge. I think they gave me the best advice that they could. And ultimately, it was up to me to deny that job. I said no because I got afraid and I felt like I couldn't do it. Fast forward to now, I told myself after that job, if a swing opportunity ever came to me again, I would absolutely, without a question, take on that opportunity because I know that it's going to lead to other greater opportunities in my future. And here I am at this job, feeling self-doubt, feeling unworthy, and I told myself that if this opportunity ever presented itself again, that I would take it. And not only did the situation happen, but I'm actually living in it. I got an opportunity to audition and I booked a role as a swing. Not forgetting to mention that I started on this job as a vacation swing, which meant that I wasn't always on the road with this company. I wasn't getting paid consistently every week with everybody else. I was only getting paid for the days that I came out to perform, and then they flew me back home, and it was back to the rigmarole and the nitty-gritty of trying to figure out where my next job and my next paycheck was going to come from. And so now I'm getting paid to be on standby at a job that, like, if they call me on stage at any given moment, I'm there ready to go, and I'm getting paid to do that. So, yes, we have to think about those things, and journaling allows me to conceptualize those things because I read about the time that I denied that job and I should have taken it. And here I am living out the manifestation of those things. So we get those things that we pray for, and having journaling a part of my routine helps me to remember what I prayed for, what I asked for, and how it is manifested in my life today. Another thing that I like to do is to affirm myself. Whenever I have this self-doubt, I will get in the mirror and I will tell myself, Naderah, you are beautiful. And I won't say you are. I look at myself and I say, I am beautiful. I am talented. I am worthy. And I would like for you to just repeat after me if you're having this difficulty. You say, I am talented. I am strong. I am worthy. I am deserving of all these opportunities. I am proficient in my abilities. I can do all these things that I have made my mind up to do. I am successful. I am wealthy. I am living my dream. And the more you repeat that to yourself, you write it down, you say it in the mirror, you say it when you're driving, you look at yourself, you feel, you touch, and you recognize that these are true affirmations that will be manifested inside of your life. A lot of people may think it's like magical hoopla, whatever, but it's real. And it's worked for me and many other successful entertainment professionals that I know and that I work with. All of these things together, from affirmations, journaling, therapy, having that morning routine, all speak to your mindset and will put you in a position so that you can win. Right now, I'm in the midst of writing my book, and it has all the details about all the things that you can do to set the proper foundation for yourself in order to be successful inside of this industry. Mindset also puts you in a position to not take things personally. When you are centered within yourself, when you know where your source of power comes from, when you are very solid on the foundation and grounded in who you are, when you go into these auditions and you don't get the job, you know that it is not about you. When you go into these working opportunities and the environment doesn't quite match your energy, you know that it is not about you. I mean, sometimes it might be about you. Maybe you just don't fit that environment. However, I'm a firm believer that God would only put you in the environments that are meant to cultivate you and mold you into the individual that He wants you to be. So whether it be an easy peasy environment or one that is difficult, they are all there to shape you and mold you into the best individual human that you can be, and to shape who you are as an artist. Also, talking about not taking things personally. I just remember when I first started my career, and I would go into these auditions, and I knew I was the most talented person sometimes. Like, I'm not going to toot my own horn like I was always the best dancer, always the best singer. That is not the truth. I just have not always been that. But the truth of the matter is that there are some auditions that I walked inside of, and I know I was twirling on the girls, okay? I didn't do all this training for no reason, baby. It was a reason why I felt the way that I felt. And I felt strongly about that because I'm a very humble person. But I know that job, like, you couldn't deny me. And that even happened to me recently. But I had to realize that, like, every time that you don't get the job, it has not anything to do with your talent. Sometimes you don't get it, it's because you're too tall, you're too short, you're too light, you're too dark, you're too fat, you're too skinny, whatever. It has nothing to do with you. Production has a way to cast people for a very specific reason, for their vision. And sometimes your talent has nothing to do with their vision. It just doesn't fit their vision. I remember when I was pursuing my career after college, and I went to Miami, and I went to this audition for like this Latin show. Now I know I tore the girls down inside of there, but even though I am Panamanian American, I'm Latin American, or I'm of Latin descent as a black woman. My father was Panamanian, so is my father's side of the family. You look at me, I'm a black woman. I'm a very proud black woman, and they could see that. And even though I have Latin heritage, I did not look like the Latin heritage girl that they were trying to cast. I looked like your all-American typical black girl. I also went into another audition where they were trying to cast people that looked like indigenous people to African countries. I'm black, but I don't look indigenous to African countries, so I didn't get that job. And let me tell you, they were hitting a West African step that I trained inside of. Did not get that job. Why? I wasn't dark enough. I auditioned for a tour once with like Beyonce, and they were looking for a dark-skinned dancer. And I looked at myself, I was like, well, I'm not dark-skinned, I'm like medium skin tone. I didn't get that job because I wasn't dark enough. They were looking for something specific. Do I think that it had anything to do with my talent? No, it didn't have anything to do with my talent. It had to do with what they were trying to cast, okay? I'm going to give you guys a story about the first time I auditioned for a company called Drumline Live. Now, I will reference Drumline Live a lot throughout this podcast because Drumline Live was the launching pad for my career. It wasn't like my claim to fame, but it is the organization and the company that I joined that opened up so many other doors for me to become the artist that I am. And I'm so thankful for that company. And I feel like if anybody is listening to the sound of my voice, if you have an opportunity to audition for Drumline Live, if you're coming from the world of HBCU dance, HBCU marching band, I highly encourage you to audition for that show because it prepares you for what the industry has in store. So I remember my first time auditioning for Drumline Live. I was a sophomore in college, and one of my dance directors had told me, hey, there's a really great job opportunity that I think you should go for in Atlanta. It's over the weekend. If you could drive up there, do the audition, I think it would be a really great job for you. So I drive all the way up there, and I go and I do this job, and the audition's amazing. I have a great audition. I dance. I get a call back to come back and sing. I sing, and once the audition is over, I walk out. I talked to all the girls that were in the room, and we were all very cordial and kind and friendly to each other. And we're like, wow, you were great. We're all giving each other compliments. It was wonderful. But I'm not going to lie to you. I know that I twirled the girls down. I was fresh out of New World. I was twirling. I was on my leg, honey. And the choreographer or the director of the show came out to me and he said, I just want you to know that you had an amazing audition. You are a wonderful dancer and you are a spectacular singer. And I just wanted to come out here and let you know how amazing you were at this audition today. Now, I didn't see this director do this to anybody else. And in my brain, I thought to myself, wow, I'm really going to get this. Well, a week went by, 2 weeks went by, 3 weeks went by. The tour started and I never heard from this person. And I was like, well, this person came to me and they told me how good I was, but I still didn't get the job. And so, of course, it took a hit to my self-esteem. But fast forward, I'm going to say maybe 6 years later, after I graduated college, after I had started pursuing dance professionally, etc., I ran into this director again, and he told me, he said, I want you to know that the reason why I had to tell you that you were amazing at that audition is because I didn't want you to take it on as an indication of your talent and your self-worth. You absolutely, hands down, were the best dancer in that audition. You had the strongest audition that day. As a singer, as a dancer, all of the things. However, we had already casted 3 other dancers and we were only looking for 1 more dancer. Our other dancers were 5'5" and 5'4", and here you are 5'8", 5'9". We couldn't cast you because we just didn't have the balance there. So what am I saying to you right now? It's another indication that like your self-worth cannot be rooted inside of what you messed up in an audition, what you didn't get inside of a class, the booking that you really wanted that you didn't get. Oftentimes it's not about you as the talent. You have the talent, you have the ability, and so having that foundation that I spoke about earlier is going to help you to be more confident in your abilities and not take things personally. It's really ultimately about your mindset. What I want to say to you next is something that I think is going to be very powerful. And after that, we'll close out the episode with some words of affirmation and some recommendations about things that you can do to elevate your mindset and to overcome imposter syndrome.
The disclaimer is a setup because behind the scenes it really gets ghetto. Yeah.
So what we finished talking about was creating other avenues to express your creativity. After you have found this foundation, your routine, and you have this group of people that are around you that are encouraging you so that you don't ever fall into the trap of feeling unworthy or feeling like you don't have that value, or you have this imposter syndrome that takes over you, I want to encourage you to create. Being an entertainer and being inside of the entertainment industry is about your creativity. You only started pursuing this because you already had the passion for it. You already loved it. You were a kid dancing around the living room for your family as a child. You were already singing inside of a microphone, doing karaoke as a kid. Before you got into those acting classes, you were mimicking the things that you saw on television. Before you actually got a drum set, you were beating on those pots and pans inside of your mother's kitchen, and you had this invigorating and exciting passion inside of you to create things because you loved it so much. What I have fallen prey to is I had stopped creating, and so it kind of shielded my vision from what I really was here for. I found my worth and my value in the jobs that I was getting because I was working so consistently. And so it was just like, well, if I don't get another job, then I have no value. And what they tell you in the industry is that you're only as good as your last job. But what if you're creating your jobs? If you're creating your own jobs, if you're creating your own material for people to consume, you always stay at the forefront of individuals. I have moved quite a bit in my career, from LA to Atlanta to New York, and no matter where I go, people are still available to see what I have going on because guess what? I'm continuing to create. Now, I fell short of that from time to time because other job opportunities have taken precedence, and that's what actually pays my bills. But also, when you're in the midst of pursuing this career, when you are a novice in the industry and you haven't had the credentials to build that reel, to do all those things, you have to create for yourself. Our cameras, I'm filming this episode on an iPhone right now, okay? And not the latest iPhone, an iPhone 12 Pro Max and a MacBook. I'm creating these things because I have a voice, I have a message that I have to share, and I'm not waiting for an opportunity to open the door for me to do that. Have I done that before? Yes, I have. Yes, I have. I waited for ESPN to give me a contract. I waited for Red Bull to give me an opportunity. I waited for all these other organizations that I've worked with to give me an opportunity, not realizing that these people found me and booked me and hired me to do these things because I was creating things before that. They could see my work. They could see what I was bringing to the table before they actually hired me to do these things. So I encourage you as an artist to always be creating. Not only does it provide you with content to put on social media platforms so that people can see your work, but it's also fulfilling to you as an artist because I don't know about you, but I feel so fulfilled when I take something from a concept that was in my mind and I put it down on paper and I put the plan together and then I manifest that into something that is physically, that you can see, that you can touch, that is tangible. Create these things. This is my solution to you guys, and it's going to help you have a more fulfilling and thriving career as an entertainer because opportunities are few and far between if you don't create them for yourself. I love y'all. This episode has awakened something inside of me, so there's so many more things that I want to work on. But I want to hear you guys. I want to hear from you guys. I want you to shoot me a DM, write me on Instagram. I want you to send me an email with your questions or anything that you would like to talk about as it pertains to the entertainment industry because it's not easy. And I want to be like your fairy god sister, and I want to help you to achieve all the things that you desire to achieve. Y'all, there's so many things that I really wish I was taught before entering into this industry. And these are one of the things that people don't talk about. They don't talk about your self-worth. They don't talk about how you value yourself, how you rebuild yourself when you're disappointed from different opportunities that you didn't get. How do you continue to thrive and stay focused on pursuing your dream when the odds come against you? When you don't get the job that you really wanted, when those relationships that you've built, which that'll be another episode talking about relationships inside of the entertainment industry, when those don't really follow through to give you the opportunities that you truly desire to have. Also, we talk about this foundation and your self-worth and your self-esteem. There's a lot of artists who have succumbed to depression and anxiety and quitting and drugs as a result of this industry being so difficult. So having this routine, having this these tools in place to help you to thrive in this industry is going to be so pivotal. I am successful because of these things, and I know so many of my other colleagues and other working professionals who we will talk to in the future are because of these tools that they've implemented inside of their lives. And before you get on this journey, I ask that you really dig into this episode and you play it back from time to time to remember who you are, what some tools that you can implement into your career in order to have the success that you desire to have. It doesn't matter where you are in your career. If you graduated college and you are working a 9-to-5 job and going to take classes at night and submitting self-tapes, that's where you ought to be, and that's where you put your focus, and you remember that this is all a sacrifice to get to your major goal, for you to have the success in this industry that you desire to have. If you're stuck in your local city because that's where you want to be, there's local theaters, there's local projects that are happening everywhere. Tap into those resources. Fulfill yourself with that art. And the last thing I want to say is that most people don't talk about this spiritual foundation, but a lot of entertainers have gone awry and have gotten themselves in very peculiar situations as a result of their lack of foundation in their spirituality. You can overcome a lot of things, a lot of negativity, a lot of bad spirits, a lot of rejection by way of your spiritual foundation. You can reinvigorate your self-worth and your value within yourself by way of your spiritual foundation. You can walk away from these auditions, whether you get them or not, these jobs, whether you do them great or not, whether you have a great performance one night or not, by having a strong spiritual foundation. There's not one man in this world who can stop, or woman, not one man or not one woman who can stop you from achieving the level of success that you want to, and you don't have to sacrifice your morals or your beliefs in order to do so. You don't have to. What God has for you is for you. And I want you to stand strong on that. And I don't want you to ever fall prey to false promises and individuals who will make you believe that your career is in their hands. Your career is in the hands of God. And as long as you continue to tap into that source of power, you will have the success that you desire to have. Either way, I love y'all. This was a very deep and loving and powerful episode for me, and I hope it resonates with you as well. I'm your girl, Naderah, and this is another episode of the Glitz and Ghetteaux podcast. See y'all later. Peace.
Film and TV, she does that. Theatrical, she been that. And Glitz and Ghetteaux is our podcast to show you how to achieve that. You were born to entertain, but this ain't for leisure. You came to get paid. The glitz and glamour is a setup, cause behind the scenes, it really is ghetto. Yeah, Glitz and Ghetteaux. Glitz and Ghetteaux. Yeah, Glitz and Ghetteaux. Glitz and Ghetteaux. You were born to entertain, but this ain't for leisure. You came to get paid. The glitz and glamour is a setup, cause behind the scenes, it really is ghetto. Yeah, Glitz and Ghetteaux. Glitz and Ghetteaux. Yeah, Glitz and Ghetteaux. It's Glitz and Ghetteaux. Glitz and Ghetteaux. It's Glitz and Ghetteaux. The glitz and glamour is a setup, cause behind the scenes, it really is ghetto. Yeah.
Did you enjoy this episode of the Glitz and Ghetteaux podcast? Well, if you did, please go like, follow, and share us on all of our social media platforms. And you can follow my personal journey at @Iam_Naderah on Instagram and TikTok. I love you guys so much. This is an amazing opportunity that I had to share myself and my friends with you by educating the entertainment professional community, my entrepreneur communities. I have some really great things in store for you guys, so continue to tune in, tap in, shoot us an email, send us your questions. If you would like to be a sponsor, you could do that as well by sending us an email to glitzandghetteaux@gmail.com. That's GLITZ and the word and ghetto, GHETTEAUX @gmail.com. It's your girl Naderah, and this is another episode of the Glitz and Ghetteaux podcast. I'll see y'all later. Bye.
The glitz and glamour is a setup, cause behind the scenes, it really is ghetto.